Shiki Tsubasa was a high school student who had just moved from the capital city, Tokyo, to Hokkaido. The moment he arrived in Hokkaido, he was amazed by the sight of thick snow covering the streets. His father told him that he could not pick him up, so he asked Tsubasa to get home on his own. Tsubasa thought he might have arrived too early, so he asked the taxi driver to stop before reaching his house because he wanted to take a walk. He was in awe of how wide and open the area was, as well as how quiet it felt, with no people or cars passing by. The atmosphere was completely different from Tokyo. However, he was shocked to realize just how cold the air truly was. In his mind, winter in Hokkaido was on a whole different level. As he started walking, he could not stop shivering. It made him wonder if moving to Hokkaido during this season had been a mistake. At that moment, the battery on his phone was running low, even though he was using it to check the map. Not far ahead, he noticed a girl standing alone. He was puzzled as to why she was wearing such a short skirt despite the freezing temperature, and even more surprised that she was not wearing thick clothing, especially when he himself, dressed in a heavy coat, felt like he was freezing to death. The girl looked in his direction, and Tsubasa asked her for directions to his home using the map on his phone. He could not help but notice how adorably red her nose was from the cold. After checking his phone, the girl pointed out the route he needed to take. Tsubasa thanked her and started to walk away, almost frozen in place earlier by how beautiful she was. Suddenly, the girl called out to him, asking if he planned to walk there. She told him it would take around 3 hours on foot, especially with the snow falling. Surprised, Tsubasa asked if that place was the town center and whether the next town was really that far away. The girl explained that Kikemi was very large. Tsubasa was shocked and realized he had made a mistake getting out of the taxi too early, thinking he could cover the rest on foot. He said he would just take the next taxi, but the girl told him no taxis passed through that area. When he asked if one would come right away if he called, she explained that if he was lucky, it might arrive in about 30 minutes. She then suggested that he wait for the bus with her instead, since it would also go to the town he was heading to and might arrive in about 5 minutes. Hearing this, Tsubasa felt relieved. He had no idea what would have happened if he had not met her. He thanked her again, and she seemed a little shy. She asked where he was from, and when he told her he was from Tokyo, she shouted in surprise. She could not understand why he had traveled so far from Tokyo to such a remote place. Tsubasa explained that he had moved to Hokkaido because of family matters. He was caught off guard by her accent, which sounded a little unusual to him. She joked that he probably thought people there were country folk, but he denied it and said that he actually liked it there because it felt peaceful. The truth was, he had often been called a country boy back in Tokyo, so he had never been popular. Even after moving from Tokyo, he still felt like one, though fortunately no one there knew it. The girl was thrilled when she learned that Tsubasa was the same age as her, 16. Even more surprising, he would also be attending Hopperio High School, which was her school as well. She could not believe the coincidence and suddenly became more friendly with him, even looping her arm around his. Tsubasa felt slightly uncomfortable because she was standing very close to him. He was curious why in such cold weather she was not wearing gloves. Soon after, she sneezed and her nose started running. Tsubasa handed her a tissue. Back in Tokyo, he had never talked to a girl like this before. He wondered if all Hokkaido girls were this kind. Playfully, she scooped up some snow and slipped it into Tsubasa's coat, laughing when he jumped in surprise from the cold. Tsubasa looked at her face, finding her incredibly beautiful. Her cheeks turned red when she heard him say that she looked pretty. Not long after, the bus arrived and the girl got on right away. Before she left, Tsubasa asked for her name, and she told him it was Minami. He felt lucky to have met a girl in this new place. Shortly afterward, his father sent him a message asking if he had arrived yet. That was when Tsubasa realized he had forgotten to board the bus. Meanwhile, on the bus, Minami was thinking about how nice it would be if Tsubasa ended up in the same class as her. The next day, Tsubasa introduced himself as a new transfer student. He stated his name and where he came from in front of the class. The homeroom teacher then told him to take a seat in the back corner. As Tsubasa looked around, he noticed that Minami was not in the same class. That did not bother him much since he actually preferred diligent girls with black hair. Previously, he had been shocked because he had never met a girl like Minami. However, not long after, Minami entered the classroom. They made eye contact and Minami recognized him right away. She ran over and hugged him, surprised to find that they were classmates after all. At that moment, the teacher scolded Minami for being late again. Tsubasa was just as surprised to find himself in the same class as Minami, and even more so, he realized they were seated next to each other. Minami said that she thought his name was nice, which startled him because she called him by his given name, something only his family and male friends had done before. When class began, Tsubasa felt extremely cold, almost like he was inside a freezer. He wondered how everyone else could study so comfortably, only to notice that the students there were wearing jackets and blankets. Worried that he might catch a cold if this continued, he suddenly received a blanket from Minami. She was used to bringing 2 blankets to school because she got cold easily, but for that day, 1 was enough for her. Wrapped in Minami's blanket, Tsubasa felt her warmth and caught a gentle scent. It almost felt as if Minami were embracing him. Her face suddenly came to mind, making him realize that his teenage emotions might be running wild. After class ended, Tsubasa returned the blanket. He was puzzled when Minami immediately sniffed it. He apologized, saying that if it smelled bad, he would wash it before giving it back. Instead, Minami said that his scent had mixed with hers and she seemed pleased about it. Embarrassed, Tsubasa was convinced that she was teasing him on purpose. To his surprise, Minami asked for something in return for lending him the blanket. She was lucky because she had no one to walk home with that day, so she invited Tsubasa to go with her. Along the way, Minami held his hand the entire time, saying that they were already close. Tsubasa could not believe that they could be this friendly after only knowing each other for 2 days. When he asked where she lived, Minami explained that she took the train home, so she asked him to walk her to the station. She then asked if he had a girlfriend, to which Tsubasa quickly replied that he did not. Minami laughed at how bluntly he answered. She asked where people in Tokyo usually went on dates. Tsubasa said maybe Harajuku or Shin-Okubo. Minami wondered why not Shibuya or Marukyo. Tsubasa explained that people usually went there just to shop for clothes, while those who wanted to walk around and eat would go elsewhere. In truth, he had never been to those places. He only knew about them from the internet. Minami said she felt envious because Tokyo had many places to hang out. Tsubasa then asked where people usually went in Kitami. Minami replied that she mostly stayed home, especially in the cold winter, and people often just hung out at each other's houses. That made Tsubasa wonder if he should also try visiting someone's home. Before long, they reached the station, and Minami said this was as far as he needed to walk her. Before he left, she invited him to come over to her house the next day. Since it was a day off, she hoped he could visit, as she also wanted to learn more about Tokyo. Tsubasa looked nervous, not expecting such an invitation. He agreed, which made Minami happy. She then asked to exchange contact information with him. Shortly after, the train arrived and Minami waved goodbye before boarding. The next day, Tsubasa went to Minami's house to fulfill her request from the day before. It was actually the first time he had ever gone to a girl's house, and he had only been living in Hokkaido for 3 days. He felt a bit worried that his family might find out, but Minami's invitation was just too tempting. When he rang her doorbell, a voice from inside greeted him. Once he said he was looking for Minami, she told him to come in since the door wasn't locked. Tsubasa couldn't help but point out that her home security seemed a little too relaxed. Minami welcomed him at the entrance and invited him inside. After taking off his shoes, he was caught off guard by how bold her outfit looked. She mentioned that he was lucky her parents were out that day. That surprised him, and he found himself overthinking what she meant by lucky. She led him to the living room, where the air felt pleasantly warm. Minami explained that the living room had floor heating and a large heater, while her own room only had a small one, so it was still chilly there. Tsubasa wondered if that was what she meant earlier about being lucky her parents were gone. He sat down, feeling more relaxed, and thought it would be impossible for his mind to wander in that warm, cozy space. But suddenly, Minami playfully brushed her foot against him, making him jump. She gave him a curious look and asked what he was going to do. Minami then went to get them drinks, handing him a bottle of katsugen, saying she had loved it since she was a kid. After taking a sip, Tsubasa liked its yogurt-like taste. Out of nowhere, Minami let out a small yelp. She had spilled some katsugen on herself. Since it felt sticky, she went to change her clothes. Tsubasa's face heated up and his heart started racing. He tried to calm down, but when she came back in something even bolder than before, his heart skipped a beat again. She said she dressed like that because it was warm inside. Tsubasa gave her a VHS tape of a movie he hadn't seen yet, and Minami seemed interested, so she played it right away. Sitting there, Tsubasa's eyes wandered toward her from behind, and he quickly covered them with his hand. Unexpectedly, the movie had some suggestive scenes. He wanted to fast forward, but was worried Minami might get the wrong idea. A moment later, he heard Minami make a soft sound, and soon after, she nudged him with her foot again. He wondered if she was reacting to the movie, but then realized she had actually fallen asleep. Tsubasa thought it was strange that she could nap so comfortably in that outfit while sitting next to a guy, and it made him question if she even saw him as one. Wanting to keep her warm, he draped his jacket over her. When she woke up, she asked about the movie. It had already ended, and he told her he didn't wake her because she looked so peaceful. He left the tape there so she could return it any time. Only then did Minami notice his jacket on her. Tsubasa told her that even if the room wasn't cold, she could still catch a chill dressed like that while sleeping. He put the jacket back on, said goodbye since it was getting late, and thanked her for having him over. As he walked away, Minami suddenly realized something and ran after him. She apologized for falling asleep without meaning to. Then Tsubasa scolded her lightly for coming outside dressed like that. He wrapped his scarf around her to keep her from catching a cold. Her cheeks turned red and she thanked him. He even offered his jacket, but she refused, saying the scarf was already warm enough and she could be outside for a bit like that. Just then, Tsubasa shivered and sneezed. Feeling bad, Minami invited him to Sika Mart, saying she'd treat him as an apology. He didn't have the heart to turn her down, so he followed her there. Once inside, she bought him some food. After tasting the delicious fried chicken, Minami told him the store's onigiri was amazing, especially since it was freshly made there. She handed one to him, and he took a bite right away. Minami then pointed out that a bit of rice had stuck to his cheek. She leaned in, removed it, and popped it into her mouth with a grin. Seeing that, Tsubasa's face turned bright red as he looked away, flustered. Before leaving for school, Minami made a small snowman and took a picture of it to post on her story. When she arrived at school, she saw Tsubasa standing in the hallway staring at the bulletin board. Minami leaned in and whispered into his ear, which startled him. Tsubasa asked her not to scare him like that. On the bulletin board, there was a flyer for the snow festival. Minami asked if he was interested in going. Tsubasa said he wanted to go while he had the chance that weekend. Minami offered to go with him, which surprised him, making him wonder if that meant it was like a date. On that weekend afternoon, Minami was having snacks with her mother, Mei, and her younger sister, Momoko. That day, Mei had made potato mochi with cheese and served it with katsujin. Mei suggested taking the family on a weekend trip because Momoko wanted to go skiing, but Minami said she would not be joining them since she planned to go to the snow festival with a friend the next day. Momoko was disappointed that Minami would not be going with her, and Minami apologized. Mei mentioned that back in grade school, Minami often went to the snow festival. Not long after, Minami's father came home and Mei and Momoko welcomed him. At that moment, Minami saw on her phone that the theme for the snow festival that year was Snow, Our Friend. The next day, Tsubasa went to Kitami Station. The night before, Minami had messaged him to meet there at 11 a.m. He had not expected to be going with her, and he thought going to the snow festival together felt a lot like a date, especially since Minami had sent her message with an emoji. She had also sent him a photo, and when he opened it, he could not help but feel something stir inside him. He figured he should just enjoy his first big event in Hokkaido, and maybe Minami had invited him simply because she knew he did not have many friends yet. After waiting for a while at Kitami Station, Minami finally arrived, and her appearance caught Tsubasa so off guard that he let out a surprised yell. He realized that this was what her casual outfit looked like outside of school. Usually, she dressed in a more revealing style, but this time, her modest look somehow made her even more attractive. It was their first time meeting outside of school on a day off. Minami asked if she looked cute, and Tsubasa, covering his face, admitted that she did. She shared that the last time she had gone to the snow festival was back in grade school, so she had really missed it. Tsubasa told her he had read about the festival online and was excited to see the snow sculptures and try Hokkaido's signature festival foods. Minami suggested he should not get his hopes too high, then invited him to head out. When they arrived at the snow festival, Tsubasa was amazed. There were many snow sculptures on display, an ice slide, food stalls, and much more. Minami asked what he thought, and he said it was incredible. She was happy to see that he enjoyed it so much. They came across a large snow sculpture, and Minami remarked that she remembered the sculptures being even bigger in the past. Tsubasa jokingly said that maybe it was Minami who had grown. When he wanted to take a picture, Minami pulled him close for a selfie. Being that close, Tsubasa caught the pleasant scent of her perfume. Minami teased that he looked funny in the picture with his relaxed eyes, and he asked her to delete it. Soon after, Minami caught the smell of delicious food and invited Tsubasa to get something to eat. Tsubasa bought a hotdog, while Minami enjoyed yakitori. She asked to try his hotdog, opened her mouth, and he fed her a bite. She loved the taste and said it was delicious. When Tsubasa noticed her bite mark on the food, he hesitated for a moment before brushing the thought aside and eating it. Minami smiled, saying that if everyone was as simple as Tsubasa, they would all look adorable. Afterward, they built a snowman together, watched some performances, went sliding, and enjoyed free hot amaze provided by the festival. Minami asked what he thought of the snow festival, and he said it was amazing, especially with so many snow and ice displays. He admitted that since he had lived in Tokyo for a long time, the scenery here impressed him even more. It was still Japan, but it looked completely different from Tokyo. Tsubasa thanked Minami for going to the festival with him, saying he was happy to have gone together. Minami confessed that she had been a little worried because the last time she went was back in grade school, and while she enjoyed it back then, she was not sure if she would enjoy it the same way now. Minami admitted she was worried that Tsubasa might be disappointed if the event turned out to be nothing special, but it turned out her worries were pointless. She said that every time she was with Tsubasa, she liked Hokkaido even more. She also admitted the place was a great city, and seeing Tsubasa so happy made her happy too. Minami felt glad she had gone to the festival with him. Without even realizing it, she might have been completely in love with her hometown. At one point, Minami slipped, but Tsubasa quickly caught her. Their faces ended up close, which made them both blush. Tsubasa apologized and said he didn't mean anything by it. Minami thanked him, and as they walked home, Tsubasa asked if she wanted to hang out with him again sometime. She teased him, asking if he wanted that much to spend time alone with her. Tsubasa replied that it didn't have to be just the two of them next time. Minami mentioned that someday she would go to the Sapporo Snow Festival. The next day at school during lunch break, Tsubasa was about to take out his lunchbox when Minami showed up and invited him to eat together. She had even brought food for him, a cup of yakisoba. She was sure it was hard to find cup yakisoba in Tokyo. Tsubasa asked if she bought it just for him. Minami explained that after seeing his expression while eating at the snow festival the other day, she wanted to keep giving him food. Tsubasa guessed that her shyness must have already reached its limit. Minami poured hot water into the cup yakisoba, closed the lid, and waited for 3 minutes. After that, she added the seasoning, which also came with a packet of Chinese-style soup base, so the leftover water could be turned into soup. Tsubasa realized it was just instant food, but the way she served it made it look really appetizing. Minami then fed Tsubasa a bite. He praised it right away. The noodles had the perfect texture, the cabbage and other ingredients blended well with the sauce, and it tasted amazing. Minami said that with this, she had repaid the favor from the Snow Festival, when Tsubasa had given her a bite of hotang. She playfully asked him if the memory made his face red. Minami asked to see the lunch he had brought. Tsubasa said it was just an ordinary lunch, but when he opened it, she called it a New Year's dish. She immediately wanted to take a picture of it. Tsubasa wondered if his lunch really looked that unusual. He offered her a taste, and she especially liked the meat, asking why it was so tender and flavorful. She even jokingly called it divine meat. Tsubasa explained it was pork cooked by his grandmother. Minami loved it so much she jokingly said she wanted to marry his grandmother. After eating, Minami thanked him, and Tsubasa thanked her back for making yakisoba for him. He said that in his entire life, he had never eaten a cup of noodles that tasted that good, and Minami had given him so many new experiences. Minami was surprised that he had never eaten cup noodles before. Tsubasa also admitted he had never been to a girl's house, never gone shopping at a convenience store, and never gone to a festival with friends. Minami wondered if maybe he was really rich since he had such a different vibe, maybe because he was from Tokyo. Tsubasa said she had the wrong idea about Tokyo and his family wasn't that wealthy, but she didn't believe him and wanted to visit his house. After school, they headed to his place. Tsubasa couldn't refuse since Minami used her secret weapon charm to persuade him. As they walked together, Tsubasa felt unsure because his grandmother was home. Suddenly, Minami spotted an igloo and called Tsubasa over. She stepped inside, and he was taken aback for a moment. She grabbed his hand and pulled him in. Inside, their bodies were pressed close together, and Minami asked if this was his first time and whether he felt the warmth in there. Tsubasa felt the place felt really cramped. Minami pulled Tsubasa closer, but he wanted to get out of the igloo. She asked why he was leaving when he had just gone in, and he was caught off guard because the way she said it sounded a bit suggestive. In the end, he stepped out of the igloo. To his surprise, his grandmother Kayati was standing right there. She was startled by whatever she thought he had been doing inside and admitted she had overheard their conversation. Tsubasa was shocked, wondering how long she had been there, especially since she had heard everything. He was about to explain, but Minami suddenly grabbed his arm and teased that he had come out way too quickly, saying that a first-time experience should be enjoyed. Both Tsubasa and Chaade were stunned by her words. Minami's excitement only grew when she saw Chaade. She quickly introduced herself and mentioned she had tried Tsubasa's lunch that Chaade had made. Chaade smiled warmly upon hearing that. Minami called the cooking god tier, saying she was jealous that Tsubasa got to eat something so delicious every day and that she wanted to try it again. Chaade thanked her for the compliment and asked what Minami's relationship with Tsubasa was. Before Minami could answer, Tsubasa quickly said they were just classmates. Minami turned toward him, smiled, and agreed, though he began to feel uneasy about her. Snow started falling, and Chaade apologized to Minami, saying she had important matters to discuss with Tsubasa, so they needed to head home. She opened her umbrella and invited him to walk with her. Tsubasa said goodbye to Minami and apologized, already predicting trouble. He felt powerless, especially knowing that his grandmother didn't like people who acted overly familiar. To him, it felt like his peaceful life in Hokkaido had just ended. Suddenly, Minami caught up to them and asked why Kaede was using an umbrella. Kaede replied that it was only natural since it was snowing. Minami objected, worried that Kaede might slip if her hands were full and end up getting hurt. She explained that her own grandmother had once broken a bone because of a similar situation, and besides, snow could be brushed off by hand. Minami asked where Tsubasa's house was. He pointed in the direction, but she told him that just ahead there was an intersection that was dangerously slippery with ice, so they should avoid it. She suggested taking a safer route and offered to walk them there. She also offered to carry Kaede's belongings, saying she wanted Kaede to protect her hands so she could keep making such delicious food. Tsubasa insisted on carrying them himself. He then asked Minami if she was mad at him. She said she wasn't mad, she just saw him as a classmate. Tsubasa admitted he wasn't sure how to explain all this in front of his grandmother and quietly told Minami that she was an important friend to him. She smiled and deliberately repeated his words out loud, making him blush in embarrassment, worried that Kaede might hear. When they reached Tsubasa's house, Minami was amazed at how it looked. She said goodbye, knowing Tsubasa had something important to do. But Kaede stopped her, saying they had gotten home faster thanks to her help, and invited her in for tea. Minami was delighted. As Kaede poured the tea, she realized she might be softening up. Perhaps it was just age catching up to her. After all, Tsubasa had chosen to be around Minami, and Kaede was starting to believe she might be a good person. When she returned with the tea, she noticed Minami taking pictures of the house and commenting that Tsubasa was clearly from a wealthy family. Kaede thought to herself that maybe she should keep an eye on this girl, but then she saw Tsubasa laughing and it reminded her of when he was a little boy. Minami told her she wanted to learn a lot so she could become someone important and help her grandmother. It had been a long time since Kaede had seen that smile on her grandson's face. She decided to trust it and served them both tea. The next day, their homeroom teacher handed out a skiing guidebook. When Tsubasa looked at the skiing chart, he saw that he was sitting right behind Minami, with Sayuri next to him. That day, Tsubasa's high school held a full-day ski trip. Everyone took the bus together to the ski resort. Minami could barely hide her excitement and asked if Tsubasa had ever skied before. He admitted he hadn't and felt a bit nervous about it. Minami gave him a playful pat on the head. She loved teasing him like that. Minami mentioned she had been skiing since grade school, so of course she was already good at it. She was planning to show off a little that day and guessed that many of their friends could probably ski well too. Tsubasa agreed, saying that locals were naturally used to the snow. He explained that in Tokyo, it rarely snowed, and even when it did, it never piled up much. Minami then walked over to Sayuri and asked if she was also excited to play in the snow, but Sayuri didn't respond. Minami looked a bit awkward. Tsubasa found it strange since Minami was usually friendly with everyone, so it was unusual to see her being ignored. Curious, he quietly asked if she was okay. Minami admitted she really wanted to get closer to Sayuri and was sure Sayuri could be a fun friend. Tsubasa felt relieved knowing they weren't fighting. Minami confessed that she actually liked Sayuri a lot, but Sayuri always acted distant whenever she tried to talk to her. Tsubasa praised Minami for her persistence, saying she had a strong mindset for trying to befriend her. Minami then told him to really look at Sayuri, her hair, her mannerisms, and her overall aura. Tsubasa admitted she was indeed beautiful. Minami added that a stylish girl with black hair and a polite personality was truly something special. As Tsubasa watched her, he thought it was surprising how Sayuri could embody two traits that usually felt opposite, being fashionable yet polite, and somehow make them work together. Minami noticed him staring at Sayuri without blinking and turned away, ending the conversation. When they arrived at the ski resort, the place was crowded with visitors. Some were already skiing while others rode the ski lifts. Their homeroom teacher gathered the students and told them to split into Class A, B, or C based on their skiing skill level. He asked everyone to follow the instructions of their assigned class instructor. Tsubasa wasn't sure which group he should join. The teacher suggested Class C, since he wasn't experienced yet. Class C students would also have to ride the ski lift before skiing down from the hill, but Tsubasa wanted to practice on flat ground first. The teacher decided to put him in the beginner group along with Sayuri for the day. She also didn't seem to know how to ski. Since the teacher needed to guide Class C, he couldn't stay with them the whole time, but said he would check in occasionally. He handed them ski equipment and reminded Tsubasa not to push himself too hard. Tsubasa thought this might be his chance to talk with Sayuri and maybe act as a bridge for Minami. But just as he was about to start a conversation, Sayuri put on her earphones. He figured she probably didn't want to be disturbed. He felt bad for Minami and considered stepping back, but Sayuri's hair was just too captivating to ignore. Sayuri began practicing walking with her skis and Tsubasa followed her lead. He realized that swinging his body in rhythm with his steps made it easier to move. Suddenly, Sayuri fell. He rushed over to help, but she got up right away, wondering out loud what the point of skiing even was. Not long after, Minami's voice called out to him. She came skiing down from above with a jump and stopped right next to him. She asked what he thought of her performance, and Tsubasa told her it was really cool. Minami smiled proudly, but their teacher shouted from a distance, warning her not to jump while skiing. She quickly returned to her group. After Minami left, Sayuri asked if Tsubasa was Minami's boyfriend. He denied it and asked why she thought that. Sayuri said it was because they seemed so close on the bus earlier. Tsubasa explained that Minami just enjoyed teasing him. At that moment, Sayuri was being scolded by the teacher, who was worried Minami might get hurt from her jump. Sayuri commented that Minami had the aura of a popular girl, someone who was loud, loved having fun, and acted overly friendly. To Tsubasa, though, Sayuri's words carried a strong sense of loneliness. Sayuri added that Minami had everything she herself lacked. Then she ended the conversation and went back to practicing skiing on her own. Meanwhile, a little kid looked too scared to slide down. Not long after, Minami invited him to slide together, promising to stick by his side. The boy agreed, trusting her because she introduced herself as a helpful snow mountain girl. Minami went down first and the boy followed right behind her. That afternoon, the homeroom teacher came over to Tsubasa and Sayuri, explaining that he had been so busy teaching Class C that he hadn't had the chance to work with them. By that time, the other students were already taking their lunch break. Tsubasa quickly realized the teacher had completely forgotten about them earlier. The teacher gave them permission to take a break too. Without saying much, Sayuri packed up her ski gear and left right away. Tsubasa grabbed his lunch and decided to eat outside the bus because he felt awkward being alone with Sayuri. He headed to the eating area, which was completely empty, probably because everyone else had already finished their break. When he opened his lunchbox, he realized he had left his chopsticks in his bag. With no other choice, he went back to the bus to get them. Inside the bus, Tsubasa was shocked to see Sayuri in the middle of changing clothes and wiping her stomach. Sayuri looked incredibly embarrassed. At that moment, Minami was on the ski lift, wondering what class Sayuri belonged to. Back in the bus, both Tsubasa and Sayuri's faces were bright red. Tsubasa quickly apologized, explaining it was an accident. He guessed that Sayuri must have decided to change there because she thought the bus was empty. Feeling guilty for accidentally seeing her bare skin, underclothes, and sweat, he apologized again and assured her he had no intention of spying. He explained that he only came back to grab his chopsticks, and if she didn't mind, he'd just take them and leave. Sayuri stayed silent. Tsubasa decided he'd come back later instead, but suddenly, Sayuri grabbed his hand and asked him to stay and have lunch there because she wanted to talk to him. They ended up eating together in the bus. Sayuri started eating with a good appetite right away, and Tsubasa was curious about what she wanted to talk about. He wondered if she was planning to threaten him into keeping quiet. He still felt a little intimidated by her, even though he didn't really know her yet. Sayuri eventually opened up, saying that she sweats easily and had always been self-conscious about it. Because of that, she didn't like exercising, but she knew that avoiding it would make her fall behind others. The more things she couldn't do, the more she lost confidence, and before she knew it, she started avoiding her friends altogether. She admitted it had gotten pretty bad, but when she finally decided to try skiing, Tsubasa happened to catch her wiping sweat, which embarrassed her even more. Tsubasa apologized again, but Sayuri admitted it was her own fault for letting her guard down. Tsubasa was surprised she was telling him all this, especially since they'd never spoken before. But for Sayuri, that was exactly why she felt relieved talking to him. They were similar in a way. Sayuri had no friends and Tsubasa was a lonely transfer student. Plus, she thought he seemed like such a serious person that he'd never spread her secret. Suddenly, a notification sound came from Sayuri's bag. She looked a little panicked. Tsubasa suggested she check it. Sayuri pulled out a tablet and explained that she had recently started playing Sis plus SP Shuido Witch, a fighting game with various famous characters. Tsubasa admitted he didn't know the game because he'd never really played video games. Sayuri urged him to try it, but he panicked, not knowing which buttons to press. She guided his hands on the controller, but they still lost the match. Sayuri laughed and said she believed him now. He really had never played before. She then taught him how to attack, block, and jump so he could get through the battle. Sayuri apologized again, thinking she must be annoying for suddenly talking so much, but Tsubasa denied it. Sayuri explained that she tried to take care of her appearance because she wanted to get closer to her classmates, but she was afraid they'd find her gross before she even got the chance. That fear made her pull away, and she ended up escaping into gaming, where she felt more in control. She admitted she thought she was pathetic. Tsubasa disagreed, saying she was actually amazing for trying. He told her personality and looks were unique and beautiful, and that he was glad to have met her. Sayuri blushed deeply at his words. Tsubasa then asked her to teach him how to play the game because he really wanted to play together with her. Sayuri's face turned red again, but she said she didn't mind as long as he called her master. She ended up winning the next round, and Tsubasa praised her, asking how she managed to pull it off. Sayuri told Tsubasa that he could definitely do it if he kept trying. Tsubasa decided to give it a shot, kept at it, and managed to win the game. He proudly showed the result to Sayuri, but she pointed out that his opponent had been the weakest computer level. That's when Tsubasa realized they needed to get back to the training area. Sayuri reminded him that their teacher had told them not to push themselves too hard, so it would be better to just relax. Tsubasa then invited Sayuri to go skiing down the slope with him, saying it would be just like the game and that they might pull it off if they tried. Around that time, their homeroom teacher gave Asuka's class permission to ski until time was up. Minami happened to spot Tsubasa and Sayuri riding a chairlift, both looking uneasy with the height. From up there, Tsubasa realized how huge the ski area was. Sayuri asked why he wanted to ski when the teacher had told them they didn't have to. Tsubasa admitted he wanted to be brave and try something new in Hokkaido. He had even asked the teacher for advice before the break, and they planned to go down an easy slope. Sayuri praised him, saying that was impressive, unlike herself. Tsubasa explained that it was actually Minami who had encouraged him. Minami had been his very first friend since he moved there, the one who shared all kinds of food with him, took him to many places, and made ski practice that day unforgettable. Sayuri then asked if Tsubasa liked Minami. He denied it, saying Minami was just a friend, but Sayuri teased that the more he denied it, the more it seemed true. She described Minami as kind and admired by everyone, even making the effort to greet her. Still, Sayuri admitted she sometimes suspected Minami might have a hidden reason for wanting to get close, which was why she never gave a genuine response. Just as Tsubasa was about to explain Minami's true personality, they reached the point where the chairlift would drop them off. Before they went down, Tsubasa made a request. If he could make it to the bottom without falling even once, he wanted Sayuri to respond positively to Minami. He explained that Minami genuinely wanted to be friends and had no hidden motives. Sayuri laughed at how far Tsubasa was willing to go for someone else, but he said it wasn't just for Minami, it was also because he wanted to get closer to Sayuri. She gave him one condition. He had to promise not to leave her behind. He agreed, and they went down together. It was their first time skiing from the top. Sayuri followed Tsubasa's earlier reminder about the teacher's advice. Take it slow, lean forward, keep the skis in a V shape, and go down in a zigzag pattern. She was surprised to find she could actually do it. They were almost at the bottom when Tsubasa focused on his final stop, forming his skis into a V and slowing to a clean halt. He was thrilled to have pulled it off. Suddenly, Sayuri shouted, asking how to stop. That's when Tsubasa realized he had forgotten to tell her that part. He called out instructions to form her skis into a V, but she didn't seem to hear him. He prepared to catch her, but before he could, Minami skied up beside Sayuri and told her to pull her legs together and tilt her body like she was sitting down. Minami reassured her that it wouldn't hurt and she would stop safely, asking her to trust the Snow Mountain rescue girl. She even demonstrated it herself. Once Sayuri managed to stop, Minami asked if she was okay. Sayuri said she was fine and didn't feel any pain. Not long after, Tsubasa caught up to make sure they were both alright. Their teacher immediately scolded Tsubasa and Sayuri for skiing recklessly. Tsubasa quickly went over to take responsibility, apologizing to Sayuri for nearly causing her to get hurt. Minami couldn't help but laugh at how loudly Tsubasa was apologizing to the teacher. Sayuri thanked Minami and apologized for being cold to her before. On the way back, Minami was happy to have skied and become friends with Sayuri, but she couldn't help feeling a bit jealous seeing how close Sayuri and Tsubasa seemed while sitting together in the back seat. That day, Tsubasa was getting ready to head to school. He was unsure if he could even make it there in the middle of a snowstorm, especially since his muscles were still sore from skiing the day before. Keita told him that Hokkaido was the perfect place to test his determination, and that he had to face the snowstorm if he wanted to truly become a local. Tsubasa promised himself that he would fight through it and get to school. He walked slowly through the snowstorm, shivering as the icy wind stung his face. The cold pierced straight into his bones, and his vision was nothing but blinding white. He couldn't see a thing. It felt like he was stranded in the middle of nowhere. He imagined that Minami, on the other hand, was probably heading to school as if nothing was wrong. A car horn suddenly blared, snapping him out of his thoughts, and he quickly stepped aside. For a moment, he felt like he was on the verge of collapsing right there in the storm. Then, a familiar voice startled him. It was Minami, wondering why he was walking through the snow like that. She offered him a ride. Tsubasa, dazed, even asked if he had somehow ended up in the afterlife. Minami simply pulled him into the car. He apologized for suddenly hitching a ride. Behind the wheel was Minami's mother, Mei, who told him to relax and make himself comfortable. Tsubasa was shocked. The stylish woman in front of him was actually Minami's mom. He had assumed she was Minami's older sister. The resemblance between the two was uncanny. Minami teased that Tsubasa might feel cramped in their car since his house was huge. He quickly denied it, but Mei chimed in, asking if he was the wealthy boy Minami had mentioned before, the one who lived in a place like a castle. She even joked that she should have put on makeup since she was meeting him for the first time, which left Tsubasa flustered. Mei even asked if he had a girlfriend back home. That question made him panic, and when Minami touched his arm, he winced in pain. He explained that he was sore from skiing since the activity used muscles he rarely exercised. Hearing that, Minami said that meant they wouldn't be doing any intense sports together for a while. Mei mentioned that Minami had incredible stamina and could stay active all day without getting tired. Tsubasa noted how cheerful Minami seemed that day. When he finally admitted that he didn't have a girlfriend, Mei seemed genuinely disappointed and half-jokingly suggested that he should date Minami. Minami quickly told her mom to stop saying things like that. The conversation makes Tsubasa think back to when he first met Minami. Mei went on to say that Tsubasa was as cute as Minami's father, which made her want to tease him. She even combined their names, Minami and Tsubasa, into Mitsubachi, which means honeybee in Japanese, saying it sounded adorable. Tsubasa thought Mei was incredibly straightforward and honestly didn't know how to respond. Minami eventually warned her mom to tone it down, but Mei brushed it off, saying she was just happy to meet him. Tsubasa, meanwhile, realized that Minami's angry face wasn't actually scary, but it still seemed wise to be careful around her. Mei guessed that this was probably Tsubasa's first time experiencing such an intense snowstorm since he was from Tokyo. He wondered aloud why the school hadn't just closed for the day. Minami explained that snowstorms weren't nearly enough to cancel classes in Hokkaido. Tsubasa pointed out that if such heavy snow fell in Tokyo, it would cause total chaos, like the end of the world. Minami found it strange that something so normal here would actually make the news in Tokyo. Tsubasa admitted he was impressed at how resilient the locals seemed, expecting that they would still go out no matter the weather, but Mei and Minami quickly denied it. Mei explained that most kids who didn't take the bus or train would usually get a ride from their parents during heavy snow. Minami added that she normally wore lighter clothes to look good, that the freezing winter made her not want to leave the house at all. That makes Tsubasa wonder what his grandmother really meant when she said becoming a true local. Mei explained that proper winter clothing was expensive, boots, coats, and all that. And since the winter season lasted so long, it could drain your wallet just on clothes. Minami complained that her allowance wasn't enough to buy new outfits, so she wanted to get a part-time job, but Mei immediately said no, reminding her that her father had forbidden it too. Tsubasa thought Minami's family seemed really close and figured it must be challenging to be a trendy girl in Hokkaido. He mentioned that both Minami and Mei already looked beautiful as they were, which surprised them both. Minami replied that compliments from him didn't really work on them. When they finally arrived at school, Tsubasa thanked them for the ride. Mei offered to give him a lift anytime there was a snowstorm. They got out of the car, and just before Minami closed the door, Mei commented that what had just happened was really nice. Minami and Tsubasa then hurried toward their classroom. All the while, Mei couldn't help but find amusing that something seemed to be blooming between the two in the middle of a snowstorm. Tsubasa and Minami were walking down the classroom hallway when Tsubasa suddenly winced in pain. Minami immediately offered to help him, but Tsubasa refused. At that moment, they ran into Sayuri, who was just heading to school as well. Minami called out loudly and went over to Sayuri. She greeted her and gave her a tight hug. Sayuri winced from the hug and said she would never forgive Minami for that. Seeing this, Tsubasa asked if Sayuri was also experiencing muscle pain. Sayuri turned the question back on him, asking if he was feeling the same. Tsubasa admitted that he had quite a bit of muscle soreness. Sayuri thought that the game they had been playing was too tough for beginners like them. Seeing how close Sayuri and Tsubasa were, Minami got annoyed and accused them of cheating because they could get along well without including her. Sayuri insisted that she and Tsubasa were not that close, and Tsubasa agreed. Suddenly, Minami shouted that she also had muscle pain. Once in class, Minami was busy fixing her appearance. She asked Tsubasa if he had already bought a cardigan and a blanket. Tsubasa said he had, explaining that living in Hokkaido would be tough without those two items. He also said he couldn't keep borrowing them from Minami all the time. Even though Minami never minded lending them to him, she opened her cardigan to show she had a hand warmer inside. Tsubasa was surprised to see it and suddenly understood why Minami always seemed tough enough to wear light clothes. Minami lent the hand warmer to Tsubasa and told him to use it because the cold in Kitami was extreme.